if the branches are turning black in color, then what happens? The leaves start turning withered away, and it start turning yellow from this part. So always to remember, when you are checking the status of your cuttings in the water, the leaf of the money plant always start turning from the branch side. For example, this totally part is turned yellow in color and remaining part is green in color. So this is the very clear indication that your leaf is totally withered away. And if I do not remove this leaf, then what happens? The entire leaf will be turned black in color. So this is the very important thing to discuss over here. I'm also showing some other branches which are turning, which are completely decayed. So you need to remove all these branches, because if you do not remove all these branches and the yellow colored leaf, it would ultimately affect the other branches as well. So if I talk about the remaining leaf, they are still in very good condition. Why this happened? What is the reason behind it? Because I had placed it in the room where it was getting the artificial light. So this is the second reason. When it happens, just keep it in the open place where it gets the air as well as some partial sunlight. So these are some major problems which cuttings faces, and I am showing you the very close vision. Now I will take out all these cuttings in order to know its current status, because I think 2 months back I had grown up these cuttings in the jar, and after 2 months all the cuttings are in a very healthy state except some few branches and leaves which I had shown you in the previous section of the video. And I will now remove all the cuttings from the water in order to know the status. Just like you can see, I have recently changed the water of the jar 2 days back, and the water is still clear. And now I'm showing you the status of the cutting. What is happening to all these cuttings? As you can see, some of the cuttings have started decayed. Like this cutting bottom part has turned black in color. So in that condition, if this happens to your cutting, like this bottom part start turning black in color or getting decayed, then in that condition do one thing which becomes very important. Because if you do not remove these blackened part of the cutting, ultimately it would affect the other cuttings as well. I'm showing you the close vision, like it has completely decayed. Like this branch, if I talk about, this is happened just because these cuttings have grown older, and moreover I had placed it in the room. So every plant demands care. If we talk about the plants in the soil, it demands care. Not only the plants in the soil, but also the plants cutting in the water also demands care. These are the very common problem which the cuttings often face. So now what I will do, just like I have picked up this branch, and you can see that this portion is totally decayed, and now I will cut it down, because it is very necessary to cut the branch. If I do not cut it down, ultimately it would affect the other cutting as well. Just like you can see, I have cut the remaining part. I have cut this branch at this section in order to save this. Even this part is also decaying, you can see, but the upper part of the leaf is quite progressive. I'm just showing the upper part is quite progressive. Even the roots are quite good. It The roots are not decayed. So this is the major problem which everybody often faces with the cuttings in the water. So in that condition, do cut down the decayed part and the rest of the part put in the water again. Just like this part is also decayed, so I will cut it down. And I'm showing you the root. Look at the root. The root is decaying. Sorry, the root is not decaying. It has developed. If I talk about this branch is decaying actually. Just like I'm removing this very pulpy part, that if I do not remove, it would ultimately damage the entire cutting. So always to check the bottom part of the cutting whether it's decayed or it's proper. Just like it start decaying, so in this condition I will cut it down also. I mean the bottom part of the cutting. So, in today's video, I am discussing the major problems that can also be happened with your cutting. So, in this condition, need not to worry at all. Do all these things and with the help of scissor, cut down the decayed part, and you can use this branch in the soil as well. I would suggest do not place such cuttings in the water again because it would face the same thing after some time. So use this cutting for growing in the soil. It will grow well and you can multiply it as well. For the time being, I am putting it in the water and later on I'll show you how to fix up this cutting in the soil as well. So now I am showing you the status of other branches as well. Just like this branch I am now picking. So you can see how these branches have decayed, showing the very negative part. I mean these branches have decayed. So if this starts happening with the cuttings, do cut down at that section. Like I will now cut down this branch at this point in order to save the cuttings. It becomes necessary and it is very important for the growth of the cutting as well. And this smaller leaf is turning yellow in color and you need to remove it also, because if you do not remove it, it will ultimately affect the growth of other cuttings also. So now this is the second cutting and you can see all the bottom part of the cutting is quite healthy and long roots have started appearing. This cutting I will also use for fixing in the soil. Now I have placed this cutting in the jar. So this cutting, now the third section which is quite different and having a different reason, like I'm showing you its root. The root is quite decayed. Is it's clear in the video, like this root is quite decayed. So now what I will do, I will cut down this part of the cutting at this point because it is very necessary to cut the bottom part. Now I have chosen this part. Now if it's clear in the video, the very smaller branch is getting yellow in color, so remove it also. So if your cuttings become like this, need not to worry at all. What you are supposed to do is just to cut down the decayed part and fix it up in the water or in the soil like this. Now you can see no part at the bottom is decayed. The cutting becomes quite fresh and healthy as it were earlier. So these are the major things. Like also I'm showing you this root. If it is visible, this root is quite decayed. So but do not remove this root. Why? Because at this section there is no branch, there is no single branch. If you cut down this root, it will ultimately damage the second branch having this leaf. So I would suggest, do not cut down such roots which having the two branches starting from the same section. Use this branch for fixing in the soil directly. So these are the things which I just wanted to share. Like, this branch is having the same problem, so remove this blackened part and fix it in the water. But now I will use all these cuttings for fixing in the soil.